What's up, YouTube? This is Mykel, the entrepreneur, back at you with some more entrepreneurial content. Today, we are going to be talking about sole proprietorship versus LLC. Let's go.
I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. Hey, hey, whoosh.
Okay, so many of you guys have thoughts, or when you're trying to figure out, what type of business you want to form, most of the time it's between sole proprietorship and an LLC. I'm not gonna lie, I was in the same boat. I really didn't understand which one that I needed. For the most part, I always started my businesses, the two businesses I have today, I started them as sole proprietorships, and then as my business evolved, I moved over to an LLC. But some of you guys, after I go over the pros and cons of both of them, you might just go right to an LLC depending on the type of business that you're in. So let's jump right into it. A sole proprietorship is typically just one person that is running the business. All of it comes through that one person. They're not, a partnership or anything like that. So if you are, just selling, your services, like for me, I was a graphic designer, freelance graphic designer for a very long time. I was running my business as a sole proprietorship. I didn't have any other, people that I was working with. I was just doing it by myself. So I was a sole proprietor. So we are going to be talking about the pros of a sole proprietor. And the biggest pro of a sole proprietor is just the easiest to form. You don't really have to do much to form a sole proprietorship. Also, there are, it's just one person managing it. Like I said before, you don't really have to deal with any of that. There are some tax benefits. There's some write-offs, office tax, things like that you can, do. But for the most part, it's known because it's very simple, and it's not really, hard to manage. So those are the pros of a sole proprietorship. Cons of the sole proprietorship, and this is kind of a catch, is since it's all one person, sometimes there's no balance, so someone can't come in and tell you, hey, I think we should do this system, or hey, I can do that. There's a lot of trial and error when you're a sole proprietor because you're ultimately making all those decisions without having any other perspective. So that's probably the hardest thing. It's a catch. I think it can also go on the pro side because then you don't have to deal with anyone if you're that type of person. But in business, I think that it's very important that you get different perspectives to make sure that you are perfecting whatever the product or whatever the service that you're doing. Another bad thing about a sole proprietorship is you have no liability protection when it comes to that. Like, so if someone were to sue you or the business, let's say you did a service for someone and they didn't like it and they decided to sue you, they're not suing the business, they're suing you because you are the business. So that is very scary. So if you've ever, been, served papers, for anything, it's tough. It's not something that, you want to go through, but as a business owner, it is going to happen. There are going to be certain things, but sole proprietorships don't have that limited liability type of protection. Another thing is it's really hard to raise money as a sole proprietorship because you're not seen as an actual business structure. So when you're going out and trying to raise money through, your bank institutions or sometimes even venture capitalists, it's really hard for you to raise money because they see it as kind of being like you just being a hobbyist in some way, and there's no real. It's hard for them to invest their money into a sole proprietorship. So also the last thing about a sole proprietorship is you do have to register very frequently. I know in the state of California I have to do it every 5 years, so it's something that happens quite frequently. With other business entities, it goes on and on and on and on until you say stop, until you were to dissolve your LLC or whatever. So it just stays where it's at, which has its ups and downs too, but you have to register as a sole proprietorship a lot more frequently than you were with any other structure. Next, let's talk about limited liability company, or LLCs. LLCs typically are the entry level to having some type of protection, hence the name limited liability company. So it does allow for you to be recognized through the state and through the federal government as a separate business entity. So that means you do have a corporate veil that protects you or that lines you from the business. But what comes with that, we're going to talk about the pros and cons, is you do have obligations that you have to do every single year, tax obligations and structural obligations to make sure sure that you are in compliance. So let's get into the pros of having an LLC. Some of the pros of having an LLC is the management is very flexible. You can go in, you can bring in other partners, you can do certain things as long as you are communicating with the Secretary of State or the SOS. Typically, you can kind of run it the way you want to. There are some things that you should have, like your operation agreement, and this is something that you should have regardless if you have partners or not. It's just the way that you run your business, because it does help when you do get sued, or if the business gets sued. It allows you to actually say, hey, these are the bylaws, this is the way that I operate, and it protects you. It lets the state or the courts know that you are running your business as a legitimate business. So that is a good thing. The next thing is you do have limited liability. I kind of talked about that in the last one. So if someone were to sue your business for something, that a product that you gave, you're protected to an extent, as long as, like I said before, you are doing the things, you're running your business as a business, you can be protected. It can't pierce the corporate veil. So it's really important that you are doing the things you need to do, so that you are able to use that limited liability. The next thing is the pass-through taxes. So the cool thing about having an LLC, separate from being a sole proprietorship, is you get to elect how you can be taxed. And there's different types of ways to be taxed. There's S Corp, there's C Corp, and I will be doing a video on what's the difference between those different types of ways of being taxed. It all depends on your revenue. It's how you want to manage your income when it comes to, and it's how you want to manage how the money comes into your business. And the other thing is, and I kind of talked about this, is just tax options. So you do have some tax flexibility when it comes to, the taxation that comes upon the money that is made, or the revenue that is generated through the business. It's now looked separately, so you get to elect how you want that business revenue to be taxed to you. Let's talk about the cons. So there are self-employment tax, and I know that it's around 15%, a little bit higher than that. I'm not sure I'm not sure on the exact number, but it's around 15%, which is a lot when you are thinking about, when you are making a couple thousands of dollars through, another revenue stream, which is a business. That can be substantial, especially to hit you all at once. And I will be talking about business accounting, which will help you with this. I'll link it up above, or I'll link it in the description. But yeah, it's tough to get that, that self-employment tax. But there are ways that you can not get around it, but there are ways that you can figure out a way, to make those accommodations. Next thing is limited growth potential. So it's really difficult for a business at this structure sometimes to gain and get, money. And the reason why I say that is because oftentimes when you are exchanging, dollars from an investor, they're going to want something in return, and most of the time it's going to be equity within the business. And sometimes when you have an LLC, that's not something that can be given away, or that's something that sometimes you might have a partner, and sometimes the businesses or the capitalists out there don't want to have to deal with someone else to be able to get a piece of that pie. So that does somewhat limit the growth that you can have in your business. Not saying everyone, but sometimes it can limit the growth of the business. The next thing is the additional taxes and fees, which if you are doing an LLC, there are the franchise tax board. They're going to come in. So the one thing about having an LLC is you do have taxes that automatically you have to pay per year. In California, it's $700 or $800. I apologize. So it's something, regardless if you make money or not, you have to pay that to the franchise tax board. So that is a bummer. So that was one thing when I was going in to start my LLC. I wanted to make sure I had that money, and you have to do it within a certain period after you filed. So it's really important for you to take care of that and get that handled. But yeah, there's taxes, there's other things that come along with it, because now you are seen as an actual business. So you want to make sure you know what taxes you're obligated to pay. So really educate yourself. And we'll be going over more detail of the LLC and how to run it, because I'm going through it. This is actually my first year of owning an LLC. So there's a lot of information that I'm learning. So I will be posting different tricks and things that I learned with doing my LLC and how I manage my LLC with you guys, so you guys cannot make the mistakes that I have made or will make. So, and the last thing is less structure. When you're running an LLC, there are certain things that you should have, but that doesn't mean that you are doing that. So it's not mandated that you have to have bylaws and manuals and all these different things. Like, you technically can kind of run it how you see it to work as a business owner or LLC owner. You want to make sure you are having bylaws. You do have customer contracts. You do have independent contractors. And you have contracts with them outside of that, so they know kind of what's expected of them when they're coming onto a site, like different liabilities, things like that, your insurance, like just different things like that. You want to make sure that you have those systems in place, but honestly, that just because you're an LLC does not mean that you are structured like that. So those are the cons as well. Now let's just looking at this table, you can kind of see that if you just were to look at the stats, an LLC has a couple of better features, but like I said in the beginning of the video, it really just depends on where you are as a business owner and where you want to go. If you are a hobbyist and you just want to start a business, you're not looking to make tons and tons of money, you're just planning on making a couple $1,000s extra each year just to fund some things that you're going to do around the house or however you want to make that money, then by all means, maybe having a sole proprietorship is what's best for you. But maybe if you are in a business that you might need to have some limited liability because you're in a lawsuit heavy industry where people get sued because of the type of work that you do, maybe you might need to just jump right into the LLC. So I'll leave this chart up. I'll also post it in the links below so you can actually download it and see kind of where you want to go as a business owner. I hope this video really helped you guys and really fine-tuning what type of business structure you might want to go for, whether it be a sole proprietorship or LLC. If you want to know more about these in particular that I did not discuss in this video, or you want some more clarification, drop a comment down below. I would love to answer those questions. But hit that subscribe button, smash it if that's something that you do. Hit that like button so the algorithm can get going for my channel, which I would greatly appreciate it. Please check out the next video so you guys can learn more, get more content, and we out.